I'm Christopher Sarro, president of Whole Construction. I'm proud to announce that the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, in partnership with American Airlines, URW Airports, has announced a $125 million commercial redevelopment of JFK's Terminal 8. As the project's construction partner, Whole Construction is pleased to partner with URW to introduce our new information and technical assistance program designed to connect you to opportunities available across the 24-month redevelopment of Terminal 8, all part of the Port Authority's $19 billion airport redevelopment program that is transforming New York's airport system. Working with our partners at the Port Authority, American Airlines, URW, and Phoenix Infrastructure, we have designed a special series of programs that will help you learn more about the project, the business and contracting opportunities that are right for your company, and how your business can participate. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to partnering together.
Working in the airport is very different from working on other construction sites. This session will give you insight into everything you need to know on how to work in an airport, including a discussion of different areas of the airport, security, worker access restrictions, including TSA screening and CBP requirements. Also, personnel vetting and how critical it is for information to be organized. This session will cover material delivery and coordination, as well as how airport construction is different from construction outside the airport. Now let's meet our panelists. Max.
Hello, Max Bloom, Project Director for New Jersey.
Madeline.
Hi, everyone. Madeline Grabowski, Rising Project Manager for the New York Air Division.
And Jason.
Jason Spector, Executive Director of Field Operations, Whole Construction.
Wonderful. So now let's jump into some regulatory and security questions. So Jason, can you tell us what are some specific regulations and standards that govern construction within an airport environment?
Sure, Jess. We're governed by TSA, FAA, and other various local agencies. Each one will have its own requirements and regulations that are defined to the project team prior to the project start. They will range from anything from security to site access to work hours to regulations and codes required with the bill.
How does construction activities impact airport security and operations?
Sure, Jess. The safety of the passengers and the flight schedules are the most priority when you're working in an airport. So the construction aspect of it, our workers will all go through vetting and screening processes to ensure that they are the right people that should be in the terminal at the time. And during our construction activities, we'll make sure that we're not going to do anything that's going to impact any of the operations with the aircraft, which cause delays.
Wonderful. And what security clearance and access restrictions are necessary for construction teams?
As we stated previously, the workers will be screened and vetted by the proper authority. Those will be identified on each project as they may vary from location to location. Typically, workers will submit names, date of birth, social security numbers. They can be cleared through TSA for the no-fly list or U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Now let's talk about the impact and difficulties of working at the airport. Max, can you tell us how a construction project impacts airport functionality and services?
Sure. In construction, we try to minimize the impact on the airport functionality and services, but they're unavoidable. Construction can impact egress pathways for staff and the public, access to escalators or elevators, and sometimes close gates for boarding aircraft. Sometimes restaurants and services have to be shut down when new construction is being tied in as well.
What are some difficulties of performing construction at the airports?
Sure. Construction can be affected at the airport due to restricted working hours as well as working near the general public. Sometimes transportation can be affected, like inter-terminal monorails and buses. Access to the work areas is one of the largest problems that we have, as well as maintaining security and movement of deliveries and personnel. The impacts usually are things like productivity, as well as lateness of materials being delivered. Sometimes proximity to aircraft means that large items being delivered have to be delayed or shifted in the schedule due to special clearances required for the FAA to erect a crane.
Who are usually the key stakeholders on airport projects?
At airports, really Port Authority is going to be the main governing body. Under that, the client or a lessee could be a specific airline group, a vendor, a restaurant chain as such, those who are going to be leasing out space over a period of time within the airports to support passenger flights or, support the public needs such as, food, beverage, and such. Under that, each airport has its own subgroup of building facilities management team that are supporting that client or lessee with construction projects and the larger communication.
Great. And how is communication managed between the construction teams and the stakeholders to minimize disruptions?
Yeah, communication is really important. We like to have multiple meetings on a weekly basis, kind of broken down by the larger owner, architect, and contractor meeting, which is the OAC meeting. But we'll also have, based on the stage of the project, whether it's kicking off or towards the end with the Port Authority and the appropriate entities that support airport permits, inspections, and if there's larger logistics that need to be thought out and submitted on to the Port Authority for approval, we work that out together. Additionally, we'll have on-site meetings or walks with specific entities as needed.
Great. And how is coordination handled with the other stakeholders involved in the project?
Right. So emails and calls are best mode of communicating is really being in person and walking the site. On the side as a contractor and with the subs, we'll walk with the sub, additionally with maybe the building management team, as well as possible security entities such as LSOC, CBP, TSA, those who might be affected by our ongoing construction activities or a future phase of that work. Make sure everyone's on board and knows their responsibilities and roles with executing that phase.
Okay, great. So now on to some infrastructure and utilities questions. So Max, how do construction activities impact existing airport infrastructure?
Well, there are myriad ways construction impacts the terminal as well as surrounding areas. Things like taxiways have to be shut down or impacted when we're doing paving, or if a crane has to be brought into the airport, or if we have deliveries of large materials. The terminal gets affected when work areas contain portions of the terminal, the gate hold rooms where passengers wait for airplanes, or when restaurants and facilities are impacted and utilities are being tied in.
Great. And speaking of utilities, what utilities are affected and how are they managed during construction?
Basically, all utilities can be affected in construction at an airport. The primary utilities like electrical, plumbing, and sprinkler are the major services that can't be localized and have to be tapped into. Those are the ones that get shut down and impact the airport. However, mechanical can also be affected when things like the building hot or chilled water are impacted and have to be tied into, and the system isn't a standalone system.
How are construction materials and equipment transported to the construction site within the airport?
When bringing in materials and tools for a construction site, we want to look at whether it's a landside access site or a airside related site. These will dictate when and where and by what method of entry point and even exit point the contractor and subs will have to the site. If it's airside, there are actually designated security checkpoints predetermined by the airport and the security team. That alone will have its own kind of sequence of checking the materials, the badging, and the government issued IDs provided by the personnel following the trucks. Additionally, what's really important is if we go into airside operations to be escorted, whether it's the vehicle being escorted or laborers being escorted. And we have to follow a ratio of 1 to 5 through those traveling.
Great. And are there specific timeframes that deliveries can be made?
Again, to mitigate impact to the public and the day-to-day traveler, we tend to keep it to very early mornings between 5, 6, 7 a.m. entries and departures. Again, it doesn't always work out that case. As a need-to-need basis, we communicate with the building team, with the security teams involved, if there's additional timeframes or windows of opportunity.
Great. And do you need special permits, licenses, or identification cards to work in the airport? Do these requirements vary when working airside versus landside?
Yes, to work airside, it's a bit stricter protocols that need to be followed. There's specific badging requirements that whether you're a laborer or even part of the GC team or part of the lessee team, you need to go through a vetting process. You provide certain amount of forms of government issued IDs and a background check to get what is known as a SIDA badge. That is airport specific and terminal specific. So you'll be able to, depending on your construction and whether or not that's necessary, you'll have to apply for that before proceeding with your work. And if it is landside, it's a bit easier. You still need to, Holt has its own standards of site access and record keeping to maintain safety and, points of entry and exit. But you still need to provide government issued IDs for tracking purposes.
Great. And now on to the environmental impact. So Jason, can you tell us what environmental regulations and considerations need to be considered during construction?
Yes, Jess, a lot of these properties are legacy properties that are multiple decades old. There's various regulations that dictate how the construction is handled, how the waste materials are handled. EPA, DEP, some projects have lead requirements. These are all identified upfront in the project to the subcontractor base and the contractors. You could have a various array of, there may be some lead, some asbestos that'll all be abated prior to work starting. And again, we'll identify those upfront.
Great. And how do construction activities affect noise levels, air quality, and the surrounding ecosystems?
Well, the noise levels inside the airport are very difficult to mitigate. We will meet, like Madeline said, with the ownership, the management of the terminal. We'll take precautions to either schedule work off hours or take mitigation methods to reduce the noise during certain hours of the day, schedule loud work off hours.
And now on to quality control and inspection. So Jason, can you tell us what quality control measures are implemented to ensure that the construction meets required standards?
Again, multi-jurisdictional, so the standards required will be identified on the construction documents to all the team involved. It'll be an international building code, plus the local regulations that it'll be either New York, New Jersey, Texas, Boston, wherever they'll be. They'll be all upfront, identified, and we will comply to those.
Okay, and how often are the inspections conducted and by whom?
The inspections will be conducted as an as-needed basis. The authority having jurisdiction is who will facilitate and run those inspections. However, as we are in public places of assembly, there will be other inspections that the GC or CM will set up with third-party testing agencies.
Wonderful. Okay, Max, now some contingency planning questions. What contingency plans are in place to address unexpected challenges or delays?
Time and money are the major items required to accommodate for any unexpected challenge. If there are unknowns that we can somewhat quantify, we put allowances in place to pay for things like overtime or for any required material costs or expediting. Time can also be built into the schedule to help with any lines that have been exceeded within a regular time frame and account for those unknowns.
Great. And how do construction projects adapt if changes occur to the airport's operations or requirements?
Similarly to the plans that you can put in place for contingencies, you adapt by extending working hours, adding shifts, or adding manpower.
Wonderful. And now finally, Jason, documentation and reporting. What documentation is typically required throughout the construction process?
Documentation will be handled on various formats. As Madeline said, most of it will be email communications of what's transpiring between the builder, the building, the airport authority. On the builder side, we compose sign-in, sign-out logs dailies. Those are conducted. Daily reports are maintained by the general contractor and the construction manager. Toolbox safety talks are held weekly We compile any other specific documents that are requested by the authority.
Wonderful. So thank you all for going through these questions with me. And now we're going to go to the live Q&A to see what questions we have from the audience. Hi everyone, and welcome to our live Q&A. And thank you. We got Rosie and Madeline here with us. So the first question here I will throw to you, Rosie. Related to deliveries, are there certain protocols that need to be followed?
So usually that will be discussed with our super. So our super will actually get with whoever the foreman or the super for the sub is, coordinate it with them directly. And then our supers and our site personnel, they will coordinate with the building to see the times available for deliveries, when they could deliver it, if it has to be day shift or night shift. So it's very dependent on the building.
Great. Madeline, next one's for you. What are some difficulties of working at the airport?
So difficulties would be, maintaining, as for us, scheduling circulation of material of various subcontractors and their men kind of through the terminal, as it's an active space for passengers and, the base building facilities. I think understanding, having pre-meetings and discussions with that team to understand, they know the function of their terminal the best, and then being able to be on the same page and work within those parameters will make work smoother.
Great. Okay. Rosie, how can I best manage my employees who are working at the airport?
The best way you can manage your employees is the constant communication. Make sure you have your line of communication on who you're going to be contacting, who's going to be on the job site, who they're going to be contacting on the Holt side. Again, you have your project management team should be dealing with the project managers. Your site personnel should be dealing with our site personnel as well. So your super, our super, your foreman, our foreman, and so forth. Make sure that the emails and the phone numbers are up to date. If for any reason you can't get in touch with your employees, I suggest maybe having multiple different employees on your side, their information. But in order to get in touch with the Holt team, we're all available. Usually we'll be there at the job site. So again, just make sure you have a contact list and it's shared with everybody on your team as well as our team.
Okay, great. And the next question is someone specifically asking about an email they sent last week. So I see your name and your company, so I'm going to check on that. I'll check with RFW and confirm if we got your email. Either way, I will reach out directly to you so we can get any questions you have answered. Okay, next question, Rosie. What are the necessary security clearances needed?
So you're working at an airport. We all know there's a bunch of clearances. First of all, like Madeline mentioned in the video, landside, airside, it's different clearances required. Holt usually has their contractor badge, so every employee on the job site will have a Holt specified contractor's badge in order for you to gain access to the job site. In order to gain access to the airport, what ends up happening is we'll end up doing sided badging sponsorships, which will sponsor the subcontractor. Then the subcontractor will work with the Port Authority in order to obtain those badges. If they do not get sided badges, again, we do the correct processes, SWAC. So for make sure you have your OSHA cards up to date, make sure you have the correct OSHA hours on there, as well as we will use escorting services to help your employees get onto the job site, as well as our own team members.
Wonderful. Okay, next question is there a way to find out what restaurant stores are going to be opening at T8? So that has not been set yet, but I would keep an eye on the new JFK.com. As soon as they release who those are going to be, they'll put it on there. And then we are also going to start doing sessions that'll probably be in 2024 with those concessionaires and their GCs, so you can get involved with working on them as well. Rosie, is there an acoustical engineering firm already on board to analyze the sound levels caused by construction noise?
So not to my knowledge, I'm not part of the a lovely bin area. However, I can reach out to our senior PM, see if there is specific scope for that or if it is needed. If not, what we'll do is we'll send your information over to the client rep, which is RFW. You can reach out to them directly at info.t8@rfwconsultants.com. They could give you a better idea if there's other items outside of the Holt work that might be coming up in the future with the concession side that they may require.
Great. Okay, next question. What are the size of the contracts and how is Holt possibly breaking up the contracts to accommodate young and emerging firms? So the size of the contracts we don't have yet. We're going to have a session in 2 weeks where we're going to go over some of the updates on the project, but we will be breaking up packages and or pairing smaller contractors with our bigger subcontractors so you could take smaller pieces of work. That will be done on both the base building work that Holt is doing and then down the line in 2024, the concessionaire packages that are coming out. So keep on the website, keep emailing us, we'll add you to the bid list and we'll make sure we break out some packages to help some smaller firms. I have been viewing these webinars for a while now, and I've reached out a couple of times, but haven't received a response on how to get started working at JFK. Our firm just got certified with the Port Authority. Please let us know the best way to contact someone. So the best thing you're going to do is email info.t8@rfwconsultants.com. Tell them what you do, and they'll get you either in the queue with Holt to get pre-qualified or get you in touch with the owner, architect, whatever it is, depending on your scope of work. Also on the new JFK.com, there's an intake form. You'll want to fill that out, check off all the scopes of work you cover, all your certifications, and this way your information goes to the right group of people. Our whole pre-qual was completed via trade tap. What's next on the agenda? So if you are approved, you will automatically be added to our bid list. If there's any issues with your pre-qual, we will email you back and get that settled with you. Once you're on your bid list, as soon as the bid packages are released, you will be included on anything that is within your scope of work. We have not released the bid packages yet. We're still in the design phase. So if we haven't reached out to you yet for bidding, that is totally normal. Okay, Rosie, are commercial cleaning and janitorial services needed on the project?
Cleaning is always needed. However, we don't have the finalized scope specific to cleaning yet. So if there is an opportunity for you on this project, either on the Holt side or on the concession side, again, just reach out with your firm's capability statement to that info.t8 email that's in the chat. Holt will let you know if you get pre-qualified with our firm, you'll automatically put on that bid list, and then you can reach out specific to the concession for the tenants and their GCs directly with RFW.
Wonderful. Okay, so that was our last question. So thank you, Rosalie and Madeline, for joining us. Again, info.t8@rfwconsultants.com, the new JFK T8.com. You're going to want to go to those. Those are going to be your main resources to get on all of the lists you need to. And join us next week on 9/21 for our T8 safety session. We have 2 of our safety managers joining us, and we're going to go over everything you need to know about safety and working at the airport in a safe manner. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week.